like to call to order the August 14th meeting of the Clearwater City Council. Our invocation this evening will be offered by Father Kyrillos Makar from St. Mary and St. Minas Coptic Orthodox Church, and our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Mr. Hamilton. Father, please come forward.
Our Heavenly Father, on behalf of all who are gathered here, we thank you for your abundant blessings. We ask you to grant us the wisdom to take the appropriate decisions to serve the people. We ask you to grant us faithfulness in using the gifts we have been entrusted with. We ask you to grant us the confidence and ability to work together in harmony. Dear Heavenly Father, we ask you to bless this meeting with your divine guidance and help us to make the best use of our own. It is in your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, thank you for joining us this evening. Have a blessed holiday tomorrow. Thank you, sir. Council, ladies and gentlemen, because there's been some confusion and question regarding our procedures on citizens to be heard, perhaps we've been a little lax in our rule, which reads, and I quote, "Citizens to be heard regarding items not on the agenda. Each person who wishes to address the council shall complete a comment card and submit the card to the city clerk, who's on the right-hand side here of the dais. Individuals will limit their comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. So if you intend to speak this evening, please fill out a card before you come forward and not afterwards, because some of you decide not to complete the card and follow with these procedures that have been in place. So we would appreciate your following that rule, and also to make sure that your cell phones are silenced and not make any noises or comments during the course of people's comments. To my right is Councilmember Jay Poglaze.
Good evening.
Councilmember Bob Cundiff.
Hello, folks.
Our City Manager Bill Horn.
Good evening.
And Assistant City Manager Michael Maxwell.
Good evening.
To my extreme left, our City Attorney Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
To her right, Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton.
Good evening.
And Councilmember David Albrecht.
Good evening.
Our first order of business will be to recognize our employee Patrick Shackton from our gas department, who has been with the City of Clearwater for 5 years. Patrick.
Thanks for your service.
Yes, you sir. Awesome. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
What you said, Patrick.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks. Congratulations.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for everything you do.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Did I not introduce our City Clerk, Rosemary Call?
Good evening.
Huh? Well, I know, but they're on the lower part. Are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of August the 1st?
Move to be approved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of August the 1st. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please make sure you fill out a card and come forward. You would have 3 minutes to speak. If not, if you fill out a card?
Yes. Darren Whitley, 3046 Grandview Avenue. This is in reference to the connection to the city sewer system. I was here like 2 weeks ago on the 1st. I believe I was told somebody would get back to me during the next week, and I have not heard anybody. And I'm just wondering who do I talk to? What's my next step? I
Okay.
can't seem to get a response back from anybody from the city.
I did call. We can speak after the meeting if you'd like.
Okay,
After last meeting, yep.
okay. Thank you.
Apologize for that, sir. Staff was supposed to get in touch with you. Okay. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? Have you filled out a card, sir? Would you turn it into the clerk, please?
I'm not going to. We had.
Would you turn
email
it into
about
the
this.
clerk, please?
No, I will not.
Madam City Clerk, would you please turn off the microphone? Sir, you're disrupting the meeting, so until you turn in the,
Mr. Slaughter, would you like to come and escort me back to my seat?
Not yet.
thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item not on the agenda?
Thank you.
Okay, we will close public comment and move on to agenda items, the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.13. Anybody from the public or council wishing to pull an item off the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.13?
And make a motion to approve the agenda, or the consent agendas, item 7.1 through 7.13.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.13. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.1, Mr. Horn.
Approve the request from the owner of property addressed at 1572 Eunice Lane to vacate the east 1.5 feet of a platted 3-foot drainage easement lying over that portion of property described in Official Records Book 10868, page 781, also being a portion of Lot 6, Brook Hill Terrace, as recorded in Plat Book 49, page 14 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, and pass ordinance 9304-19 on first reading. Mr. Burzak.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. Good evening. Robert Burzak, Real Estate Coordinator. The purpose of this vacation will be to allow the homeowner's pool and deck screen enclosure not to encumber into the easement. There are no utilities present within this easement, and city staff have reviewed this vacation and have no objections.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.1? Anybody from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 8.1?
Move to approve agenda item 8.1.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.1. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9304-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the east 1.5 feet of a platted 30-foot drainage easement lying over that portion of property described in Official Records Book 10868, page 781, also being a portion of Lot 6, Brook Hill Terrace, as recorded in Plat Book 49, page 14 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I would move to pass ordinance 9304-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9304-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.2, Mr. Horn.
Approve the request from City of Clearwater to vacate the north portion of the 50-foot right-of-way of Meadowlark Lane, also known as Meadowlark Lane, in revised map, Town of Bayview, as recorded in Plat Book H6, page 23 of the Public Records of the Hillsborough County, Florida, of which Pinellas County was once a part, lying south of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, and north of a line located parallel and 330 feet south of the east-west center line of Section 16, Township 29 South, Range 16 East, also being the center line of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, less the 25-foot wide portion previously vacated as recorded in Official Records Book 19332, page 1499 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and pass ordinance 9306-19 on first reading. Mr. Burzak.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. The right-of-way is not necessary for municipal use, and it's deemed to be in the best interest of the city and the general public that it is vacated. City staff recommends vacation of the right-of-way. Is there any questions?
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.2? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.2? Motion?
Oh, I'm sorry. Move approval of agenda item 8.2.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.2. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9306-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, vacating the north portion of a 50-foot right-of-way of Meadow Lark Lane, also known as Meadow Lark Lane, and revised map Town of Bayview as recorded in Plat Book H6, page 23, the public records of Hillsborough County, Florida, of which Pinellas County was once a part, lying south of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, and north of a line located parallel and 330 feet south of the east-west center line of Section 16, Township 29 South, Range 16 East, also being the center line of Gulf to Bay Boulevard, State Road 60, less the 25-foot wide portion previously vacated as recorded in Official Records Book 19332, page 1499 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9306-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9306-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.3, Mr. Horn.
Declare surplus for the purpose of sale through request for proposals 48-19, real property located at the northwest corner of Grant Street and North Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, legally described as lots 6, 7, and 8, Block B, first addition to Norwood, according to the map or plat thereof as recorded in Plat 5, page 7, Book 5, page 79 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, and real property located at 1415 Taft Avenue, legally described as Lot 16, Block 1, Lincoln Place addition to Clearwater, Florida, according to the plat thereof, as recorded in Plat Book 3, page 17 of the Public Records of Pinellas County, Florida, whereby the successful proposal meets the terms set by council. Mr. Lane.
Thank you, Chuck Lane, Economic Development and Housing Department. The purpose of this RFP is to donate this land for an affordable housing project. There are two properties identified in the RFP. They total about 0.44 acres. The larger tract was acquired through foreclosure of a delinquent housing loan. The smaller parcel was acquired by the county due to non-payment of taxes. The county then deeded it to the city at no cost to the city in 2001. Both properties are identified on the city's list of properties that are available for affordable housing. Council approved that list by resolution earlier this year. Allowable density for the property identified in the RFP is 4 residential units. There is also an opportunity for a proposal to include an additional lands adjacent to the property, which would of course increase the scope of the project. There is privately owned land that may be available for this purpose, adding an additional 5 to 6 units. This is an opportunity to facilitate new construction in the North Greenwood neighborhood. It also to create and preserve units that will be available at affordable prices.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.3? Mr. Cundiff.
Thank you. Are we looking at single-family homes on these lots?
Probably not. To get the densities that we're looking at, we're probably looking at a multifamily project.
All right.
Any other questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.3?
Move to approve agenda item 8.3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.3. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
8.3 does not have
Oh, it doesn't
an
have one,
ordinance
right.
or resolution.
9.1, Mr. Horn.
Amend Appendix A, Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Schedule of Fees, Rates and Charges, Section 24, Public Works Fees, Rates and Charges, 3C, Solid Waste Collection Rates, 3D, Recycling Rates, and 5B, Solid Waste Roll-Off Container and Receptacle Service to increase specific collection fees for solid waste and recycling for the years 2020 through 2024, and pass ordinance number 9307-19 on first reading. Mr. Gloucester.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Earl Gloucester, Director of Solid Waste General Services. Prior to the presentation of that item, which is the result of a recently completed rate study on the solid waste and recycling funds, we'll have a presentation of the rate study itself from our consultant from Stantec, Ms. Leticia DeHuluk, will present that for us.
Good evening. How's it going? I'm Leticia Duhalik. I'm here with Stantec Consulting. I'm a managing consultant with Stantec. And I'm presenting the solid waste and recycling revenue sufficiency analysis results. So, not to sound a little repetitious, but not to repeat myself, but historically, because we've already kind of went through this on Monday, but historically the city has adopted multi-year rate increases or annual rate increases on the multi-year basis. And so the current rate for the solid waste and recycling plan is expired. So you had it since from 2015 through now. And so we need a new adoption of a 5-year plan. Historically, the city has conducted annual and biannual revenue sufficiency analysis, and this has been useful in validating and revising plans when needed. And the analyses are used or done through our interactive modeling and decision support process. The interactive decision support process includes just adding or evaluating quite a bit of financial data and putting them into a proprietary model that we hold, and having several discussions with your staff and looking at different rate scenarios and different outcomes until we arrive at one where staff and everybody's most comfortable with. The financial management plan that is essentially spit out by this model provides us with projections of revenues and expenses and annual rate adjustments, key performance indicators like your debt service and reserve fund balances. And some of the key challenges specifically to the solid waste as we did this study include this 6% annual rate increase that is a direct cost to the system, and it's outside of the city's control. It's a pass-through from Pinellas County, so 6% annually for dumping fees. The other key challenge was a $550,000 increase to personnel and salaries expenses. This is driven from the compensation study that was approved by the city earlier this year, I think maybe in March or April. The third key challenge is the funding of a transfer station. This is the upgrading of the transfer station for $16 million, and the sharp reduction in roll-off revenues, a lot of that stemming from just tapering off of large construction projects in the city. So the financial plan that we have before you for the next 5 years would be the 3 3/4 annual rate increases. This is the same annual rate increases that were in effect and expired in 2019. In 2020, this reflects a change to the monthly bill of $1.19. The revenue and expenses and the operating fund charts shown on the bottom of your screen are direct spit out, if you will, of our financial plan. And the cash in line, the black line, reflects your projected revenues for that period, for the 5-year period. The orange line reflect the projected cash out or expenses. So revenues and expenses are right on top of each other, meaning that the projected fund balances on the operating fund listed or shown by the blue bars are essentially staying the same for the next year, for the next 5 years, given the projections. One important item to touch on is that black line. The black line is a target line, and it represents 6 months of operating reserve. This is an important level from one of the multiple things that rating agencies look at. But the fact that the projected fund balances are staying above that target is very important for the city when it looks to potentially fund a new infrastructure in the future. And the city has actually done a great job in maintaining within those parameters historically as well. Again, we're looking to adopt a new 5-year rate increase for 2020 through 2024. One thing I wanted to point out here is that the cost of the service of the city is very comparable to the local communities around this area. And it also, what is not shown in this chart is just the level of service that is provided by the city. Your city will sometimes pick up multiple times if the customer calls and needs additional pickups without charging additional fees, which is very common in other cities. And a lot of the utilities represented here too are now seeking a similar type of study, a revenue sufficiency analysis. simply because the 6% annual rate increases from Pinellas County is a big expense to a lot of those cities as well. And so we expect that as we move forward in the next couple of years, some of those cities will also change and pass on some rate increases. So overall, the recommendation is for a new 5-year plan, as we discussed, the 3 3/4 annual rate increases. The financial management plan here ensures that we're going to maintain that 6 months of operating reserves in the bank. And also, we recommend that you do an annual and biannual update to these analyses so that we can update this plan if need be as we start getting new information regarding revenues and expenses, or if economic conditions change, or other factors that could affect this analysis. And last but certainly not least, the typical monthly bill is represented here. And on the left side, you have all of the utility services provided by the city. So for fiscal year 2019, if you sum up all of the utility service, you'd get a typical monthly bill of $101.55. Given the rate assumptions, the rate increases currently in effect for some of the utilities like the water and sewer, and the 3 3/4 that we're talking about for solid waste, and the reduction to stormwater that we'll talk about in a little bit, that bill goes up to $103.70. That's $2.15, I guess $2.15 change from one year to the next. And that's all I had.
Okay. Any questions on agenda item 9.1? Mr. Poglaze.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things, these challenges that we're currently affecting this dramatically. The 6% raise from the county, or the 6% increase from the county, is that due to the whole recycling issue, or is that in way part due to the recycling issue? I mean, how long were the rates steady prior to the 6% increase would be my first question.
Good evening, David Powers, Controller, Solid Waste General Services. The 6% increase is just on the solid waste side from Pinellas County Solid Waste. They have not raised their rates in more than 20 years. It's been holding at $37.50 for a long time, and they're just now bringing that increase forward, and it's been approved for the next 3 years at 6%. So it'll be going to $39.75 per ton.
Okay.
But it does not have anything to do with recycling.
Got it. Okay. The other challenges that that we're having to endure right now, because 3.7% over 5 years, it sounds bad. If you look at the actual dollar amount, it's a couple dollars over 5 years. But do we anticipate, and that's why I totally agree with the biannual, annual, look at this, check this up to see where we are, because it would be helpful to know, or hopefully we can anticipate we would not have to go to a 12% continual increase over the next 5 years at the end of 24. So to anticipate these things coming forward, I think would be beneficial to know ahead of time so we can kind of adjust.
Yeah, I think the updating of the analysis would be able to provide you those types of guidances. I think one thing to consider too is that your O&M costs are consistently increasing because of inflation. And so overall, your costs are typically increasing. And if they are increasing, you kind of have to maintain a certain level of revenues to stay with your cost, essentially.
The period prior to this 5-year period, and the last year, 19, was 3.75. Was that a 5-year period also, or was 3.75 each year prior to that?
Yes.
See, that kind of concerns me. I mean, eventually you're going to get a solid waste bill that, I mean, how do we control these costs? I mean, you can stay ahead of it and adjust and keep raising the rates, but I mean, that's just a comment. Thank you.
Okay, we'll wait until the comment period for a comment.
Well, it was the end of a question.
Mr. Kundo.
Yeah.
He asked one of the questions. I said the current rate increase is 3.75, and so we're not changing the rate of increase.
That's correct.
The next 4 years if we go with this plan. You had mentioned that part of the consideration was the $16 million transfer station. Is it going over budget? I thought the money was already in the bank for
So that money has already been set aside into the CIP for the transfer
All right.
station project.
I thought.
Everything seems to be on time and on budget.
All right. And the rate of increase is about $6 now for a monthly bill in the next, is that 4 years or 5 years? How does that compare with other municipalities in their rate of increase?
Yeah, so I actually have a little cheat sheet for some of the solid waste communities around. So St. Pete is looking at a 5.25% increase for 2020. Gulfport is looking at 6%. Dunedin is looking at 2%. And then, as I mentioned before, some of these utilities have not been able to look at their costs. And so the Pinellas County cost specifically is, I believe, about 20% of your city's budget. And so any kind of fluctuation in their rate increase will essentially affect your system in a substantial way. And the same thing is true for all of the other surrounding communities that are also using the Pinellas County landfill. They're going to have to go through these rate increases to essentially take on and be able to support the increases from the county.
And that really was my last question, which I think you just answered. The 6% increase that we're getting from the county landfill, that the landfill bill is about 20% of our solid waste budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Hamilton?
Well, I think we have to understand that the 3.75% annual increase is, in actual dollars, not unbelievable, but this is the cost of doing business. I mean, this is covering the cost of solid waste. You got, we don't know what insurance, we don't know what, wages, insurance. At 3.75% increase a year, we're just covering our expenses. We're not building up a mass bank account of reserve out of this. If we wanted to raise them 6 or 7% every year, yeah, we could build up some serious reserves, but that's not what we do to our citizens. We keep the increase to its minimum and just cover what we have to cover.
And the answer to that question is yes, we cover what.
Well, am I correct in that?
Yeah, you're correct. And
Because
if you just look at the slide that I presented to you, so the projected revenues and expenses are right on top of each other. So you're really not adding to fund balance or putting money away somewhere. You're using the money that you're receiving on an annual basis.
And people look at the chart before that or after that with the different municipalities. Pinellas County is all the way down on the left side, but that doesn't include the cost of private sanitation pickup for unincorporated residents. So that's a very misleading, Pinellas County, how much cheaper Pinellas County is. Well, Pinellas County doesn't pick up the solid waste. You have to contract privately to have that done, and it's a little more than $20 a month, which is the gap between the county and us.
There are other communities in that chart too that do privatize.
So.
Clarify, because there's some confusion about the 16 million when you mentioned that. Where did that money come from to pay for the transfer station?
That 16 million came from the reserves of the solid waste fund. Now, we spent our reserves down considerably in order to do this infrastructure improvement, but that's the piece that came out of the reserves that we had built in solid waste over the past 20 years.
And so that was a challenge to help rebuild the reserve also then, correct?
Yep, essentially maintain the levels that you had before.
Okay.
And within those 6 months that I talked about, because from a rating agency stance too, you want to keep certain levels so that in the future, if you do have to fund big items like the transfer station or anything, especially if you have to go out and issue debt, the criteria that the rating agencies have out there are really important to have funds available to the city at that point.
So that gives us a better bond rating and a lower interest rate.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Gloucester, come back up here and remind us what we collect that other cities, reference was made that, other cities don't provide the same level of service that we do. And explain that a little further if you don't mind.
Well, basically, we're in your neighborhood once a week. We pick up your solid waste in your black barrel, your recycling in your blue barrel. We have a yard waste pickup and a bulk items pickup, all in one day in your neighborhood, in and out. A lot of other communities do not pick up bulk items, or they'll have a charge for it. They also don't pick up, a lot of communities don't pick up green waste. They'll charge you for that also. They'll have a drop-off place where you drop it off, and they'll charge for that. We also offer at the end of the month, last Wednesday of every month, we have an electronics drop-off. People come to the solid waste complex and drop off their no longer wanted or used electronics. All they have to do is show that they're a citizen of Clearwater, and you drop it off there. Those are all part of the services that we provide in the solid waste department.
And then remind us of what our Simplify for 5 recycling plan is.
Our Simplify to 5 is the 5 items that we take in our recycling program. That's paper, that's aluminum and steel cans, that's cardboard, that is glass, and that is, what's the last one? Plastic. Thank you. Plastic bottles. Thank you.
Plastic bags from Publix.
Plastic bags are forbidden.
Shredded
Do not put your recyclables in your cart in plastic bags. Put them in there loosely. Plastic bags, we do not want your plastic bags in the blue bin. Put them in the black bin. Or take them back to Publix.
How about our pizza boxes?
Your pizza boxes, if it has that grease spot on it, which they all do, please put that in your black barrel. We don't want that in your recycling either.
And egg cartons and styrofoam.
Egg carton styrofoam is not a part of our program. It is not one of the 5 items that I mentioned.
Thank you, sir.
And Earl, is there a magic liquid that will clean a peanut butter jar?
There is not.
So put the peanut butter jar in the solid waste, not in the
Yes, sir.
recycling.
Yes, if you don't want to wash it out.
If you don't want to sit there and scrub it out, just put it,
Yeah.
okay, I got you.
Yes.
With grandchildren, we go through a lot of peanut butter.
Thank you for asking that question.
Yeah. Any other questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 9.1? Motion?
Move approval of agenda item 9.1.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.1. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call. Oh, was it Ms. Aiken's turn?
Ordinance number 9307-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Schedule of Fees, Rates, and Charges, Article 25, Public Works Fees, Rates, and Charges, Sections 3C, Solid Waste Collection Rates, 3D, Recycling, and 5 other miscellaneous charges, providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9307-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9307-19 on first reading. Comments, council? Again, please thank our staff and our employees who are out there in this hot weather picking up our garbage and our trash and our recyclables and bulk items. We appreciate the work that they do, whether it's raining or shining, and remind them to stay hydrated for all of us. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.2, Mr. Horn.
Approve a decrease of residential and commercial stormwater utility rates by 8.5% per equivalent residential unit, ERU, beginning October 1, 2019, and increases of residential and commercial stormwater utility rates by 0.5% ERU, beginning October 1, 2020, and October 1, 2021, and pass ordinance 9305-19 on first reading. Ms. Kivett.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tara Kivett, Engineering Department. We went over this on Monday, so basically we're rolling back our rates to 2012 by reduction of $1.25, and I'll have Letitia from Stantec give you some further details.
Good evening again. I'll try to be fast too, because I know some of these slides are a little repetitive. But historically, since it's the city practice to adopt multi-year rate plans. This rate plan is actually adopted and in effect through 2022. So we're essentially asking for an amendment of the 0.5% rate increase through 2022. And we'll talk a little bit more about the annual adjustments in a couple of slides. Historically, the city has conducted these revenue sufficiency analyses, and we'll recommend that they continue to do so. I'm going to skip through the process. I think we've gone through it, and you understand what our process is as far as doing these analyses. Some of the key assumptions in here are no future grant receipts expected. If they do come in, they're going to be a benefit. No sizable costs stemming from regulations and the retirement of the 2014 series in 2020 and the 2013 series in 2022. Key performance targets, we touched a little bit on these in the solid waste, but essentially maintaining at the very least a 6 months of O&M reserve and maintaining debt service coverage of at least 1.5 times. These are all indicative of strong utility from a rating agency perspective. The financial plan recommendation is a reduction to rates of 8.5% in 2020 and then no rate increases or no adjustments through 2022. Again, this would be an amendment to the current ordinance, and it reflects a reduction of $1.25. As compared to other communities, I guess one thing to keep in mind is the reduction will bring Clearwater down on that chart. And a lot of these communities are seeing pretty high rate increases. And so as Clearwater stays at the same level for the next 3 years, some of these communities will bump Clearwater very quickly. And this chart will change quite a bit. Again, the recommendations is that you will amend your current ordinance to reflect this reduction and then no rate increases for the next 2 years. And this plan ensures that the adequate reserves are kept in the bank, and it also has projected coverages that are higher than 2.0, which is quite a bit above the 1.5 times that we talked about. We also, again, recommend that you continue to do these analyses so that we can update these rates, the level of annual rate increases or adjustments as necessary. And last but certainly not least is the overall 2020 impact bill impact, and it's $2.15, again, taking into consideration the rate adjustments that we just talked about for solid waste and recycling, and then this proposed or recommended for stormwater. Any questions or comments?
Let's just get clarified. Madam City Clerk, when the city manager read the title, he was using the old information. Do we need to restate that? Because
I'm not sure the title changes.
The title of
no.
the agenda item.
What he read was the one about a 0.05 increase in 2020 and 2021, and that's not what the ordinance is providing.
That's correct. That needs
So
to
do we
be-
need to have that restated?
Would you like me to read the whereas clause, which
Okay.
explains what we're actually doing?
Okay.
Pursuant to the 2019 Stantec Consulting Services Stormwater Revenue Sufficiency Analysis, the city engineered department, the department determines that due to current capital and operating cost projections, the previously adopted 0.50% rate increase for 10/01/2019 can be changed to an 8.5% decrease in rates in year 2020, with years 2021 and 2022 receiving 0% rate increases. So that's the ordinance that you have in front of you.
Right. Okay. And that also projects that there will be a 1% increase in 2023 and 2024.
So our plan is to come back to you when this plan expires, because this is the original plan and we're right in the middle of it. So
Right.
amend this plan, come back to you with a new plan by updating this analysis and making sure that the one still
It
aligns.
still fits.
Yep.
Right, okay. Okay? Any other questions, council? Okay. Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 9.2? Motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 9.2.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.2. Comments, council? Mr. Kondo.
I was just going to say, in my book, it's nice to be able to reduce a rate and keep it reduced for, the next couple of years. That doesn't happen very often.
I think it
City
speaks
government.
to your city's ability to pre-plan and to make sure that they have the infrastructure in place to do that now.
Any other comments? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Cole?
Ordinance number 9305-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the Clearwater Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, Schedule of Fees, Rates and Charges, Article 24, Public Works Fees, Rates and Charges, Section 3E, Stormwater Management Utility Rates, providing an effective date.
I would move to pass ordinance 9305-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9305-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9. Thank you very much for being here again tonight and answering our questions and working through all of this. Agenda item 9.3, Mr. Horn.
Accept a water line easement from FTC Clearwater SPE LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city water lines on real property located at 1551 Flannery Circle West, Clearwater, and adopt resolution 19-24. Mr. Burzak.
Thank you. Robert Burzak, Real Estate Coordinator. The water line easement grants the city rights to maintain water line facilities within an easement area. The City Engineering Department recommends acceptance of the easement. Questions?
Any questions of staff on agenda item 9.3? Comments, council? Or no, anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 9.3? Motion?
Move to approve agenda item 9.3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.3. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 19-24, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, accepting a waterline easement from FTC Clearwater SPE LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city waterline facilities, providing an effective date.
I move that we adopt resolution 19-24.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-24. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.4, Mr. Horn.
Accept an access easement from Doctors Kiran and Pallavi Patel, 2017 Foundation for Global Understanding, Inc., for vehicular and pedestrian access rights across the easement premises to the adjacent city-owned property, otherwise known as Cooper's Point, and adopt resolution 19-25. Mr. Burzak.
Thank you. As a condition of ordinance 9202-18, the applicant was required to grant an alternate access easement to the city. City staff recommends acceptance of the easement.
Questions for staff on 9.4? Mr. Kunda.
I see the site location on the map, but where does the easement go? Is the easement going to be, from what I understood, it was supposed to be behind the buildings?
Yeah, it kind of curves around. If you look at the exhibit on the easement document, that's pretty much the exact location. It kind of goes up and it curves around.
Okay.
Yes.
You want to put it on the map? You want to put it on the Elma?
That exhibit.
Do you want it on the Elma?
I don't need it. No.
Okay.
As long as it's the same as it was.
Exhibit A.
Yeah.
Any other questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to 9.4?
Motion to approve agenda item 9.4.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.4. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Resolution number 19-25, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, accepting an access easement from Doctors Karan and Pallavi Patel, 2017 Foundation for Global Understanding, Inc., for vehicular and pedestrian access across the easement premises for access to the grantee's property located adjacent to the grantor's property and otherwise known as Cooper's Point Preserve, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt resolution 1920-25.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-25. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.5, Mr. Horn.
Approve a recommendation by the Public Art and Design Board for the commission of a public art installation for the Morningside Recreation Complex located at 2400 Horn Boulevard, as designed by Guy Kemper for a total cost of $36,052.50, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Hubbard.
Good evening, council, city management, and citizens. My name is Christopher Hubbard. I'm the Cultural Affairs Coordinator for the City of Clearwater. The theme and scope of this project were determined by the selection panel, which consisted of representatives of the Public Art and Design Board, the Morningside Neighborhood Associations, Parks and Recreation Department, and an artist representative. Guy Kemper was selected as the artist that best fit the project criteria. His original exterior proposal was amended to comply with Florida Building Code requirements that require tinting on glass for environmental and conservation adherence. Mr. Kemper indicated that the required tinting would negate and obscure the impact of his proposal. An alternate design was then developed in collaboration with the selection panel and project stakeholders. The style and placement of this alternate design was unanimously approved by the selection panel and neighborhood associations after a deliberate process of public input and several meetings and lengthy discussions. The panel recommends the proposed installation site, and the Public Art and Design Board unanimously approves of their selection. This commission supports the city's strategic vision by providing public art for citizens and visitors, and represents the city's ongoing commitment to the Commission of Public Art, making the city an attractive place to live, learn, work, visit, and play. This concludes my presentation, and I am available to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for staff on agenda item 9.5? Mr. Cundiff.
Explain to me why the viewpoint is that having this indoors rather than outdoors protects the artwork.
Yes, sir. In the discussion and selection of the interior site, the Morningside Neighborhood Associations opted for an internal site that best protects the piece from any vandalism that may occur. We do have very safe neighborhoods, but there is always the chance of vandalism for a project of this nature. Additionally, the Morningside Neighborhood Associations felt that the building's exterior and design was artwork in itself. They did not want to disrupt that facade that was placed out there, and that placement of an exterior freestanding work would contrast with the design of the facility. So they opted for an internal placement, citing that this is a very popular and used facility, and that the visitors to this facility would be able to see the artwork as they entered into the building.
If I could just follow up, the places that you showed on the interior don't really seem to jive with the fluorescent lights that are there.
Correct.
Would it be a difficult thing to move those fluorescent lights or change them to a different, LED type of thing that would not clash with the artwork?
Yes, sir. I intend to work with the Parks and Rec Department to remove the obscuring lighting there in favor of lighting that actually highlights the piece better and provides the same effect to the lobby that those hanging lights would provide.
Any other questions, council?
No questions.
You made reference to vandalism. Do we have other public art that is outdoors?
Yes, we do.
Has it been vandalized in all the years that it has been out?
We have had some minor vandalism. We've had some stickers and scratching. We've had people that have written with magic marker. Those have been able to be reversed, thankfully, but there is always the prospect of vandalism.
That would happen no matter what, correct?
That does happen with external pieces.
Okay. Mr. Horn, I apologize, sir, but in all the years that I've been on council, I don't ever recall seeing a letter from a staff member to a neighborhood group suggesting that they come out and talk, on a position. And I'm just wondering, is this a new procedure that we're following?
No, Mayor, it's not a new position, but it does reflect over my tenure here where council has always insisted that we give them feedback as to how the community feels about a particular item that is coming before the council. And so that was the reason why Mr. Hubbard seemed to take on the responsibility for the neighborhood at Monday's work session. And I felt that the best expression of the reasons why the indoor position was recommended would be better articulated by the residents who was a part of this process. And that's why.
Okay.
That's why I did it.
Okay. I mean, I didn't know whether he
Yeah.
took this on himself to do it because it doesn't say that he was directed to, and I was curious about
Yeah,
that.
because, sometimes in council questioning, our staff can't completely answer
Understand.
it adequately, and so that's why I had to do it.
But the other thing that I am sort of upset about is if it were known from the beginning that I do not support public art being indoors, then why wasn't I invited to talk to the board before it reached its decision? Because initially this was to be an outdoor artwork, and it's just,
Well, but again, just think about how we.
But I'm being singled out here as, the mayor's opposition, and the mayor never had an opportunity to explain to the committee why he objected.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Going forward, we'll do that.
You
But council, you all have been pretty expressive about your feelings, and they tend to be well-known. So,
Yeah.
I didn't think it was.
The other question I had was pertaining to the Countryside Library.
Yes, sir.
Where is the artwork in the Countryside Library?
Is a terrazzo floor in the entrance to the library.
Okay. And the Countryside Fire Station?
The Countryside Fire Station does not have a piece of artwork.
Is it not supposed to have one?
They donated to the discretionary fund in lieu of having artwork. Within the ordinance and guidelines of the program, you have the ability to pool funds.
To do that, to use to other projects in other parts of the community?
In other parts of the community that are approved public art and design program projects initiated by the city.
So in this particular project, it doesn't have to be in the building or on the building. It could be any, for example, there's a roundabout or, a little circular driveway near the Morningside Rec Center. It could be there, or the money could have been donated for some other artwork.
The money could have been pooled into another city project. Within the public art master plan and our governing documents, it instructs the public art program to incorporate artwork into the design and the facilities of the building wherever possible. The intent is to avoid something that's called plop art, which is art that's added into a facility afterwards and looks like a Band-Aid, as per a lot of the discussion in the public art field. Many times the artwork added to an exterior of the building does not have a conversation with the building, nor does it reflect the design of the use of the facility or the citizens' interaction.
Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 9.5? Motion?
Hold on.
Oh,
I'll fill out a card for you, even though that's ridiculous. It's not like any of you don't know who I am or where I live or anything else. Now, can that be on record so I don't have to do that every single time, Mr. Creticos?
No,
Since
sir.
you changed the rules.
no, sir, we've never changed the rules.
You did. So we disagree on that. So I'm going to speak about this public art project. I absolutely agree with you that public art is not public if it's indoors. It should be outside. If it's something that can't, it's something that can be done, it can be set out. The other thing is, if you're going to spend $36,000, why don't you put that to solid waste and not raise our rates? It's not, in my way of thinking, any business of the city to be in the art business. They should take care of the streets, make sure the sewers work, make sure, try not to be 103%, nationwide on utilities. Try to provide police service, which the Sheriff's Department is primary. But as far as artwork goes, that's going to be in a building in one particular neighborhood, I'm opposed, and I absolutely agree with you on that point.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 9.5? Motion?
Move approval of agenda item 9.5.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.5. Comments, council? Mr. Poglaze.
Thank you. So, and I'm in agreement with the mayor and Mr. Haluba as well. Public art should be external, all of our artwork downtown. So, and I did appreciate your translation, how it goes, it can go either inside or outside as long as it's within the fabric of the building ahead of time. So within those guidelines for public art, was there a formula strategy? Does 50% of them have to go out? Who makes the decision whether the public art goes outside or, in the case of Station 45, go in? How does the process work to get it to that point? And does the neighborhood or the community, what is their input? What kind of, is it a voting system? How does this work?
The selection panel will convene at the early outset of the project to take a look at the site and find some locations that may or may not be the best accessible for public artwork. In some locations, just by necessity of the design of the building, that work might be better posed interior, and others, and exterior placement is better suited. In the case of Fire Station 48 on Belcher, there was a very nice plaza space that was arranged out at the site,
right,
at which a piece of public art was a nice complement to that plaza and provided a gathering space for people to use on their lunch breaks, but also to have ceremonies and honorings over at the fire station. So we were able to do that. I did take a look at our collection. Out of the 21 works we have currently commissioned, 18 of them are external placements. 3 of them are internal. So 85% of our public artwork is exterior.
I had no idea that was. It would be helpful, I think, in the future. I mean, I would like to have a list, that list. If we could have, just to see it, because I'm not aware of that much public art and all the projects throughout the years.
I'd be happy to provide that.
I'd just like to go around and see them. I see the one on Belcher all the time.
Yes, sir.
I never see the one on Court Street in that fire station. And the only reason I'll see the Morningside one is because we're members and my wife swims there. Probably wouldn't see that one either. So, but I didn't realize it was 18 to 3. Thank you. That was my comments. Thank you.
Any other, Mr. Hamilton?
I'm a person that likes public art as well, and outside is great, but inside is not the end of the world. Chris, I guess I could have asked this during the questions, but this is basically the same mosaic piece that he designed. It's just being mounted on an interior wall versus an exterior wall due to construction finishes and whatnot. Am I correct?
It was altered a bit, actually. Originally, the exterior piece was oranges and yellows and greens. That would have matched with the history of the site prior to its use as a recreation center, with Morningside being orange groves and cattle grazing areas. Once they got further on and realized that the tinting of the glass would negatively impact the colors and really kind of wash out and obscure that, the artist looked towards the internal site at the direction of the selection panel. He had proposed 2 pieces that had a more warm color scheme, as in the original, and a piece that reflected a cool color scheme of the blues and greens that you see at this piece. The selection panel felt that best reflected the pool and one of the dominant uses of that site for the public. So that's where that selection came from.
Okay. And I just, with what Mr. Haluba said, we can't by ordinance give this money to solid waste. And if we could, $35,000 to solid waste would equate, and I haven't done the math, but I'm not, I used to be pretty good at it, and I can promise you, spread across the city, $35,000 is probably about 2 or 3 cents a month per house, is what, for a, for a certain amount of time. But,
No, sir, you may not.
but after the meeting, you can't, I'll speak with you. But I'm going to sit here and I'm going to admit straight up, the artwork we did at Station 45 was a mistake. In hindsight, being 2020, it was a mistake. I was under the belief that once it was installed, it was going to be very visible from the street, but the design of it and everything, I liked it, and I was under the belief you're going to, number one, you can't be looking at it when you're going down Court Street, number one. And number two, it's even if you are looking, if you're a passenger and happen to be looking for it, it's hard to see. So I'm going to be the first one to say, we made a mistake on that one. We're not perfect. But I'm not comparing this piece to Station 45 because the number of people, citizens and visitors alike, that walk into this rec center is exponentially more than walk into our fire station. And, our ordinance says this will have a public art piece. As he said, 85% of them are outdoors already. I'm comfortable with this piece being indoors at this facility. My preference would always be, could be outdoors if the location's right and it doesn't cause a traffic issue and public safety issue. But in this case, I'm perfectly comfortable with being indoors with this piece.
Mr. Condoff.
Thank you. I'm going to vote for the motion. I do think that public buildings are public outside and inside, and there's no harm in, depending on the location, of having artwork inside of a building. In this case, as my colleague said, there have already been thousands of people come to Morningside Rec Center since its opening, and it's not been open for a year yet, and thousands more over the coming years. So I'm happy for it. It looks like it's going to be a nice project if we can move those lights.
For council, I did do some research. Since the building has opened, 47,412 people have entered into Morningside Recreation Center.
Did you want to say anything? Did you want to say anything? No, I mean.
Well, I was gonna wait to the end to comment, but
Well, this is the end.
Well, no, it's not the very end.
Yeah, you and then the mayor.
I've always been supportive. You know that, Chris. I was on the committee with you when we were doing artwork for the beginning before it ever became, an ordinance that we had to include art in public facilities. So I think it's a great thing. I think Clearwater's done a great job of staying out front with his art program. The Art 365 that we have downtown I love it because it's something changes every year, and we have, I know art's in the eye of the beholder, and we have some people that don't like certain things, but that's art, and that's part of the thing about art. You can like things and you can not like it, but it gives you an impact, and Clearwater does a good job of it. So whether it's inside in I agree, in a facility like Morningside Rec, a lot of people are going to be able to see that, so I don't have a problem with it. Thank you.
Council, no one's been a stronger proponent of the Morningside Rec Center than myself over the years. Mr. Hamilton, I appreciate your confession. I wish you had heard my arguments when I was making them when we were talking about the fire station, because those were the arguments that I was making. And I really appreciate the work that Mr. Hubbard has done with the committee. Y'all are, they are volunteers. They have given their heart and soul to the Morningside Rec Center over the years, and it is greatly appreciated, not only by my colleagues, but myself, and I know the staff. However, this artwork was going to be outdoors initially. There were other alternatives that could have been considered that I don't know whether they were or not being considered. And because of, I try to be consistent, and I've really had not necessarily a sleepless night last night, but this has weighed heavily on me because I know how important this whole project is to the community and especially that neighborhood. But I feel very strongly that that this artwork in a situation like this should be first considered outdoors. And as much as I would like to continue my support for the Morningside Rec Center on this particular issue, I am going to be voting in opposition. Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 9.5. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. The motion carries 4-1 with Creticus in opposition. Thank you very much, and please express our appreciation to the committee and the neighborhood association.
I will, sir.
Okay,
And
thank you
in
very
speaking
much.
with the neighborhood, they did say to extend a thank you to you for your support for bringing that facility back to the neighborhood. So they were very appreciative. Thank you, Council.
Mr. Horn, do you have anything further for us?
No, Mayor, I do not.
Okay, Ms. Aiken, agenda item 10.1.
Approve changes to City Council Rule 6, Order of Business, and Rule 15, Rules of Conduct, and adopt Resolution 19-27. Council, we have prepared some recommended changes to your rules. Mr. Smith will go through those with you. You have them in your packet, and we are addressing two rules. One's the order of business, and the other is the rules of conduct.
Evening, Council. Matt Smith, Assistant City Attorney. Before you is a recommended update to the council rules, and it's in two parts. The first part, it amends Rule 6, Order of Business, to indicate that comment cards must be filled out by citizens before they will be allowed to speak. And secondly, Rule 15, Rules of Conduct, is amended to help council identify behavior that disrupts meetings. And right in the rule are examples of all the behavior. And this takes the focus away from council having to decide on the spot whether speech is disrupting the meeting, and at the same time ensuring that First Amendment rights are being protected. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 10.1? This was not at our work session.
No, sir.
Is that in order then?
It's up to you. If you want to bring it back to the next meeting, we can, and we can just discuss it now. But I think that you can consider it.
Okay. I mean, we're not doing anything different in asking our questions now that we would ask at our work session, but I know that council did not get this packet until yesterday.
For your rules, you do not allow items that are expending money without it going to a work session.
Okay.
But otherwise, you don't have a prohibition that says you can't you can't consider something.
Okay.
But if you want to put it off, that's fine.
I was just trying to anticipate maybe questions that would be asked. Okay. Any questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 10.1?
I don't think, Mr. Smith, that this would stand up to a legal challenge. It is a clear violation of the First Amendment, especially in my case when everybody knows who I am, where I live, what my address is, and all of those type of things. It causes a chilling effect on people getting up here and speaking, to have to identify themselves at all. Now, I would propose a compromise, one way or the other, if they want to give their name verbally, as this is all recorded, public record. There's essentially nothing, no advantage to doing this. It's still public record. It's just another way for you people to intimidate anyone who wants to come up here and speak. Obviously, I'm over that. This is wrong. It's, in my opinion, in violation of the First Amendment. I don't think it would stand a legal challenge, Ms. Aiken. And I believe I sent you an email, something to that effect, earlier today. If you want, your job is to take input from the citizens. And pulling stumps like this is an impediment to that. You all are supposed to represent us, the citizens. It looks like your campaign's working pretty well, because I don't think there's very many of them here. This is completely wrong. You know, there's nothing wrong with having, you know, an option. But to sit there and turn my microphone off because I said I wouldn't do this is a violation of my First Amendment rights, Mr. Creticos. And if you had let me speak, I was actually going to give you a compliment. You want to hear it now? Just, okay. Everybody else is not going to like it. But I was very pleased that you were basically the Lone Ranger in opposing Mr. Polglaz's appointment. It's a travesty of the democratic system that I have to stand here in front of people who are supposed to be elected officials that were not elected.
With all due respect, sir, you're speaking on the agenda item.
Okay, well, that dovetails into filling out this card. Filling out this card is wrong. It's an impediment to free speech. I believe it's a violation of the First Amendment. I don't really care what you say.
Ms. Aiken?
Yes, sir. Of course, we did give a lot of consideration to the rule when it was initially adopted, when you adopted the rule that provided for the card, and again, when we were making these proposed amendments. And Florida law does not require that you allow citizens to be heard on items not on the agenda. And if you choose to do that...
Excuse me 1 second. If you have a cell phone or other device that goes off, please silence it or go outside and conduct your business there. Thank you very much.
But Florida statutes also allows you to adopt rules for the orderly conduct of the meetings. And one of those rules that they specifically talk about is to prescribe procedures or forms for individuals to use in order to inform the Board or Commission of a desire to be heard. So clearly, you can require people to submit that information. I believe that the rules as they are drafted are constitutional. So I do not agree with Mr. Haluba on that point. You'll also find that many jurisdictions have that requirement. We were sort of a late adopter. We only adopted it 2 years ago. Most jurisdictions have been doing it pretty much forever.
So say that again so that, because we got interrupted. The Florida legislature has passed a state statute?
Well, Florida Statute 286.0114 discusses your authority to regulate your meetings and to provide rules and policies. And that was the provision that I just read to you.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Mr. Smith, did you have something else to say? Oh, okay.
Not unless there's a question.
Okay. Need a motion?
Motion to approve agenda item 10.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 10.1. Comments, council?
No. I mean, it just, well, I guess the question is, we haven't had a chance, and we haven't all had one-on-ones with the city attorney since we received this. As I read through it, it's pretty boilerplate, just clarifying procedure that is our right and privilege to do. I guess I have a question. How does this read versus, say, what the county commission does as far as there? Because they're the ones, they've always, you've always filled out a form to speak in front of the county commission, and their process, is this drawn pretty much off of what they do?
No, we are more liberal.
We're even more liberal than the county.
In fact, the last time I was at a county commission meeting, citizens to be heard are postponed until the end of the meeting. And you cannot speak unless you filled out a card, given it to the clerk, and then the chairman of the county commission calls the individual up one at a time. If there's no card, you don't speak. I think that's...
Yeah.
Right. To answer your question, Councilmember Hamilton, the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners requires, quote, each person who wishes to address the commission during citizens to be heard must complete a citizen comment card. So.
But their order of business is a little
It's
bit different,
different,
as you mentioned, Mayor. The other thing that this rule provides that they do not provide is that if someone does come in late or change their mind and want to speak, you can allow them to do that, and then turn in the card. Well, so that is a very generous provision that not everyone provides.
But Mr. Hamilton, I understand your other concern. That was why I asked my question earlier about this not being on the, during our work session. Would y'all want to postpone until our next meeting, September the 5th, the vote on this resolution, or do y'all want to go forward now?
I'm comfortable, sir.
I'm fine going forward.
Going forward now. It's pretty cut and dried.
Mr. Hamilton may be the only person I missed.
Yeah, so I'll, we're good.
Okay.
We can move it forward, and if I have any questions, I'll discuss them with the, afterwards. Because I can always bring it back up.
Right, and we always, we review our rules every year.
Yeah.
So, if we see that something isn't working right, later on, we can always, adjust if necessary.
Okay.
Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to adopt agenda item 10.1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken, you have a resolution?
Resolution number 19-27, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending council rules providing an effective date.
Move that we adopt resolution number 19-27.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-27. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken, do you have any other business for us?
No, sir.
Okay, closing comments, Mr. Poglaze.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one. It was, we had a trip to Philadelphia a few weeks ago, and one of the things that I found in the hotel on the nightstand, I don't know if any of the rest of you guys noticed this, and the one trip that I took to Japan, and then, of course, this last trip flying to Philly, flying across the country, I noticed solar panels throughout much of the entire country of Japan. Much of the Midwest, solar panels everywhere, wind fields everywhere. Here in Florida, along the eastern seaboard, we're subject to big lobbyists, we're subject to Duke Energy. And of course, Philadelphia is a huge city. They have a Philadelphia Energy Commission. They urge citizens to join the solar panel movement. It's interesting because it is the wave of the future. Fossil burning fuels, in my opinion, is not sustainable. We have resiliency projects. We have a sustainability coordinator. I wish the citizens would rise up and collectively make a big effort. The last one failed miserably. in Tallahassee, the large power companies succeeded, do not allow you to come off the grid. This is the wave of the future, and the rest of the world has jumped on board. It's unfortunate that we here in Florida are not allowed to. So those would be my final comments. This is put out by the city of Philadelphia.
Mr. Cundiff.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Hamilton.
I don't know that I have anything. We have a budget meeting next week.
22nd.
As of right now, I plan on being in attendance, but I've had a family issue arise that may prevent me from being here. But if I cannot be here, I'll make sure all my questions are presented before I leave.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Albritton.
And I won't be at the next work session, but I will make the council meeting. But just kind of go on what Mr. Pogley said. I'm really glad that Clearwater has a new sustainability coordinator, and that she's looking on all the construction that we do, has input on trying to be more green and doing something with either solar or giving us options now to do that. And I think it's very important with Clearwater, so I'm glad we're moving. Clearwater is moving back into the green program as well, so it's a good thing.
The downtown Clearwater artwork is going to be on Friday the 16th. This will be a free event, and you will be able to see some of our best artists in the Bay Area painting live artwork. We'll also give you an opportunity to check out Clearwater downtown businesses while supporting our arts, which are very important not only to the city of Clearwater, but in the entire county. I want to remind everybody that Sunsets at Pier 60 has movies every night out at Pier 60 Park. And as was mentioned earlier in our meeting, on Wednesday, August the 28th, the city will have a free electronics collection day at our solid waste facility. On Friday, August the 30th, is the Rockin' Clearwater Street Festival at Station Square Park. That event is going to run from 10 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock in the evening. Want to remind everybody that Labor Day is on Monday, September the 2nd, so our city offices will be closed. The free sidewalk rain art is available to the county, to our residents through the city. The city will provide paint and tools to provide an opportunity for you to do some stenciling in your neighborhood. You can email neighborhoods@myclearwater.com or call excuse me, or call 562-4559 for additional information on that program or our signal box art painting program. Earlier today and really through the rest of the week, we have in Clearwater Paralympian table tennis champions from the United States and Canada. They will be leaving on Saturday to go to Lima, Peru for the Pan Am Games in preparation for the Olympics in Tokyo, Japan in 2020. I want to remind everybody that school started this morning here in Pinellas County. Please be careful. Please observe school crossings, school bus stops, and do not be texting while you are driving or talking on the phone in a school neighborhood zone, please. Our next work session will be on Tuesday, September the 3rd, with our meeting on Thursday, September the 5th. And again, want to remind everybody that we will be having a special budget meeting on Thursday, August the 22nd here at the library, and I believe that meeting is going to start at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. With that, thank you for spending part of your evening with us, and we are adjourned until that meeting on August the 22nd.